Hi, everyone. I'm Randy Slickers. I'm the Executive Director of the Upper Great Lakes chapter of the National Scleroderma Foundation. Want to welcome everybody and say thank you for coming to the last in our series of Teal Talk Real Talks for Scleroderma Awareness Month. Been doing a lot of really great things. We encourage you to look over our social media and the website and see some of the wonderful things that are going on across all of the chapters and across the country. We're really excited today to have a speaker that's going to be able to provide a lot of great information for you. And so I want to go ahead and introduce him. First, we're going to have a disclaimer slide that I want to be able to go over briefly. The information in this session is for educational and informational purposes only. The foundation does not provide financial, investment, or legal advice. Information in this webinar is provided by a third-party organization and is not endorsed or sponsored by the National Scleroderma Foundation. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Eric Ochmanek. Eric leads ABLE Today at the National Association of State Treasurers. ABLE Today directly engages the disability community through national outreach, developing resources, and fostering partnerships to increase the awareness of ABLE accounts. In 2016, Eric worked to launch one of the first ABLE programs. He has since traveled throughout the country to connect people with disabilities with ABLE accounts and build partnerships within the disability, financial, legal, and support services communities. We're really blessed to have him here today. So everybody welcome Eric Ochmanek.
Randy, thank you. Brian, everyone, thank you again very much. This is my first Teal Talk, so I hope I can do a great job here, Randy, for you. Really excited to be part of not only this webinar, but also our Missouri ABLE program will be with the national conference next month in St. Louis. So if we don't get it right today, I can promise you we'll get it right next month in St. Louis. So if you haven't ever heard of an ABLE account before, I'm super excited to be able to share information with you. Hopefully my screen is now, well, that's the wrong one. Let's go here. Hopefully my screen will be able to figure this out. All right, let's try that one, Randy. That one better? Great. Okay. So if you had never heard of an ABLE account before, it is a unique and amazing financial tool, not only for people with disabilities, but also their families. It's one of the most monumental pieces of disability public policies, really since the ADA of 1990. For the first time ever, people with disabilities and their families can save money in an ABLE account, use it for increased disability-related expenses, with the main part of it being that for the very first time, in a very easy way, you can put money into an account and not lose benefits like Medicaid and SSI. So we'll get into some more of the details here, but again, thanks for having me. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll be able to try to go through them along the way. But I promise you, just like all the other webinars we do, we love to answer questions. I've been doing outreach on ABLE accounts since 2016. Randy and I were just talking how we're about the same age, and so my hair was a lot blonder before, and all these years later, I love doing outreach. I love answering questions. I promise we'll be able to answer as many as we can today. So I, again, work for the National Association of State Treasurers. I started the very first ABLE program in the country in Ohio. I left the Ohio State Treasurer's Office. I joined the National Association. And there we partner with corporations like Wells Fargo to be able to do national outreach. So I'm doing almost exactly the same job I was doing for the Ohio ABLE program, but now I'm lucky enough to be able to do it across the entire country. And I get to go to national conferences. We get to host webinars, get to join webinars like the Teal Talk today. So again, can't say it enough. Thank you for letting us come and help do outreach and provide information on what an ABLE is. So for today, probably a good way to get started is if you happen to have a person with a disability in your life, if you are a person with a disability, if you're a school disability support provider, representative payee, financial advisor, a trust lawyer, there are a lot of people that should learn about ABLE accounts. I want this slide eventually just to say everyone, because I think it's easier if we just said everyone, but our communications folks believe that I should be able to put some categories in here. Essentially, it's anyone who's a self-advocate or anyone who touched the life of a person with disability should easily be able to be made aware and given information on what account is. me say this time and time again, able accounts do not solve every single problem in the financial disability space for a life of someone with a disability, but they do solve a heck of a lot. So I'm really excited to be able to share more information about it. So for a person with a disability, if they happen to be on benefits, for example, SSI or Medicaid, for example, there is a resource limit for how much money they can have. And that amount is basically $2,000. So this is set by the federal government. There have been some conversations in Washington, D.C. about changing it. But essentially, for a person with a disability, they can only have $2,000 or they lose their benefits. So imagine if they could have more than $2,000 and in their own name, because all these years later of doing outreach, we've heard of families giving money to the siblings of their child, or maybe they have money in a grandparent's account. It's never the person with the disability's money, right? It's always somebody else's money. And really, at the end of the day, if you're a parent, for example, the longstanding question always is, who's going to take care? How is my son or daughter going to live when I pass away, right? So imagine for a person with a disability, then they're able to accumulate wealth and have funds available to them while remaining eligible for benefits. In the disability servicing and benefits world, there's a term called spend down. So people with disabilities and their families have to basically decide, do I spend down and go back below the $2,000 amount to stay eligible for Medicaid, stay eligible for SSI and other benefits? Or do I risk losing my benefits? At the end of the day, this is kind of what it happens is you're living on a month plan for that person. Imagine if they could shift over and be able to have a year-to-year plan or really a lifetime plan. Hopefully, it's not a shock that able accounts actually provide a lot of these choices, both for people with disabilities and their families. So I've been doing this a long time. This is exactly the 100% most important slide in this entire deck. I miss driving around and doing in-person presentations. I know all of us are very busy. I know we're looking at emails and other things. This right here, though, I think really powerfully sums up what an able account is. And this is really where you can take from here and understand maybe what it can do for people with disabilities. So again, through Congress, through the ABLE Act, ABLE accounts were created as saving and spending tools for people with disabilities and allows them to save money in their account while protecting their eligibility for benefits. It's under the US tax code. It's under section 529A on our website, which I'm happy to share with anyone. All the federal regulations are on there, including the original ABLE Act, the Medicaid, Medicare service information, the Social Security information. So not only is this a real thing, all these years later, it is amazing to us that the word has not gotten out there. That's why conversations like today, hopefully, is a great introduction to what an able account is, and we'll be able to rely on all of you to kind of share the information on top of being able to be at the national conference next month. So a little bit of the national picture really quick. 46 states and the District of Columbia have an ABLE program. Most of the programs are run by state treasurer offices, which is why actually in one of these corners it says my logo of the National Association of State Treasurers up here. Essentially, it's a state program, kind of like a college savings account, which are also run by state treasurer offices. If you're in a state that happens not to have their own program just yet, many of the programs actually have open enrollments for national, and we're going to get through that information here in a little bit. As of recently, and we're about to go final with the information on how many accounts for the first part of this year, there's roughly over 200,000 accounts and over $2.4 billion in those accounts themselves. So the average account balance is well over $10,000. Why do I say that? So when I was first getting started, the average account balances were lower, and it shows that people are putting money in their accounts, they are utilizing them, and also they're not losing the benefits, which is a really big thing. So on our website, we have every single program listed. It's on there in a very easy format. Also, we have a great tool to be able to show you a lot of the information on the different programs. So it's all on our website, which we can go over here in a little bit. Okay, so key features. We make this slide very, very clean and easy for a couple of good reasons. Number one, It's like a short-term savings account, so you can put money in and take money out and spend it. So it's basically a transactional vehicle, but also you can use it for a long-term savings option like a 529 account. So you can put money into it, remaining eligible on benefits, and then be able to plan for using it 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. If you have the opportunity now to save money, it's called financial empowerment, right? It's being able to use money in a way that you haven't before. It's being able to save money like you haven't been able to before. We mentioned the spend down alternative. If people want to be able to spend down, they can. But maybe there's a situation where people don't want to only have $2,000, right? They want to have more than $2,000, and able accounts can do that. Different than legal entities like a special needs trust, the owner of the account is actually always the person with the disability. Now, a family member, which we'll get over here in a little second, can actually go ahead and manage the account, but the owner of the account is always the person with the disability. It's very easy to use. It's very easy to open. All the accounts, including like the one I used to work on, it's all done online. We did that on purpose so people can be able to manage the accounts wherever they are. And then some of the states actually have tax incentives. So, for example, in Ohio, at least, it was $4,000 a tax incentive for contributions to an ABLE account. That's if a parent, a guardian, a neighbor, someone was contributing in the state, contributing to an ABLE account, they could actually collect and have and earn a tax benefit for doing so. So different states have these different tax benefits. Again, I'll be able to show you where on a website you can locate wherever you are in the country, be able to see if your state has that. Okay, eligibility, fairly simple-ish. Essentially, the disability has to have started before the age of 26. What does that mean? It can mean a couple of different things. So number one, if the disability has started at birth, that's before 26. If someone's actually diagnosed with the disability in their 30s or 40s, but a doctor and a physician has basically said they've had the condition their whole life, again, that could also mean they're eligible. So you do not have to have the account before the age of 26. It really just depends on when the onset was as diagnosed by a physician. Big thing for us, at least in the ABLE program world, is that the age has been increased by the US Congress. So starting in 2026, the age of diagnosis will actually be up to 46 years old. So we're going to increase the number of people and increase the age range for it, which is really great. Essentially, it has to have marked and severe functional limitation. It has to basically last for at least 12 months. A couple of other easy ways to be able to be eligible is if someone already receives or is eligible to receive SSI, SSDI, or again, if a doctor has diagnosed someone with a disability. We use the Blue Book as an example of where to find this information on if someone is ABLE eligible. So we did a little bit of research. I'm going to grab it here during the Q&A. But essentially, the Social Security has a Blue Book, which is a determination and listing of all the different disabilities and conditions that they have shown is something that they determine to have a disability. And I think that we're ABLE eligible in this group. So just I'll grab that piece of information. Or actually, I may have sent it to you before, I think, right? But if not, I'll grab it and I'll make sure I put it in the chat in a little bit. Okay, so on our website, abletoday.org, able-programs. This is every single ABLE program that's out there in the entire country. We tend not to pick one over another. If anybody here asks me what's the best ABLE program, I'm going to say all of them. It's a tie, right? Because we're just trying to make sure people know they exist. And also, I believe, and the ABLE programs also believe, that where you live, your home state should be looked at first, because they may have different program features and incentives like that tax break, which we talked about earlier in the programming. Again, it's all done online. It's very easy. It takes 20 minutes, probably 10 minutes. It's just a lot of information and banking information. So with that, does anybody have a question? And usually I do this because it gives me a chance to take a drink of water really quick. So if there's any questions, I'll stop for just 1 second and also check the chat. Great. Okay. We mentioned earlier in the program that ABLE accounts are owned by people with disabilities, but they can have someone basically be a provider of support person to manage the account. For the way the regulations work, a person with this disability can actually, oh, Ashley, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It looks like Nikhil did have a question in the chat, and it was, can a support person co-manage with the account owner?
That's a really good question. Yeah, so they can come in, they can help with supported decision making too. So it's a very flexible way of managing it. One piece of the puzzle though is co-managing is when people with disabilities do provide somebody else with access, they have full access to the account. So yes, co-managing does exist. On the programming though for the account, they are going to ask for a singular point of contact though for who the manager is. So if it's the person with disability, that's great. They can help with co-managing, but if it's a parent or someone else, they will be listed as the official manager. It's a single point of contact for the program. So I hope that answered the question. Can you sign up in a different state? Yes. So you don't have to sign up for your own program in your own state. You do not have to have that program. You can search around, you can shop around, you can compare and contrast. In fact, on our website, we have a search and compare tool that you can compare up to 2 or 3 different ABLE programs. So you can pick different states and look at the different features. We're going to get into some of the differences of the ABLE programs here in a little bit. Kimberly has a really, really good question, and I'm gonna try to delay here, hoping that she forgets her question. So her question is, can a child be a supporter? So that is a question that's a policy question that we have in Washington, D.C., because we have family members who have a child who want to be a supporter for their elder family members with disabilities. As the regulations state right here, child is not on here, but, and I'll transition into the slide then, a person with a disability that has the capacity can actually provide someone with power of attorney rights to be able to manage the account. So for example, someone could appoint their child as the power of attorney to be able to manage the ABLE program. If not, then it could be a conservator, a guardian, spouse, parent, sibling, grandparent, representative, payee. So there is a way to do it. Again, it's a person with disability, could be an elderly parent, could provide power of attorney rights to their child to be able to manage the ABLE account itself. Kimberly, really, really good question. It's actually something that we're hearing a lot more about, especially since the ABLE age expansion will happen next year, and people who are 46 of age can join and younger. So we're going to see a larger breadth of ages being able to come in, which means that there might be some children who want to help manage the ABLE program for their parents. So very good question. Okay, just a quick illustration, very quick example. So for example, Amanda is age of minority, which means in her state, she would be under the age of 18 or 19, depending on what the age is in her state. Her mother can open up the account for her. Her mother would be the account or a manager, while Amanda, again, the child, is still the account owner. Her mother can help support it. Her mother can help manage the account. She helps manage the day-to-day operations, the withdrawals, the spending, all those things. So she's the one who can do it. And again, this is very simple, very easy. After Amanda, though, turns age majority, which again could be in the state, could be 18 or 19, Amanda then would receive the opportunity to have the account for herself. Her mother would no longer be the manager of it. They'd have to update the ABLE program. And at that point, Amanda could self-determine and self-choose if they want their parent to do it. So again, that's different layers because conservators and other guardianships come into play there. But that's one example of what can happen with an ABLE account over the course. Getting money in. When I was younger, you'd go to a bank and you'd give money and they give you a receipt and you write it in a checkbook. ABLE accounts operate a lot of the same way as modern technology and modern programs. So you can write a check, but more easily you can do a deposit via electronic funds transfer. Many of the programs actually allow for payroll deduction. So think of different payments that can come out of your paycheck. It could be for retirement. It could be for 529 accounts. You can actually be able to take a form that most of the ABLE programs have on their website. You can provide it to the HR payroll specialist at your company, and a person with a disability can put their own money into the ABLE account, or a family member can also do the same thing and direct deposit money from their payroll account. E-gifting. So maybe you've heard of e-gifting platforms. I believe there's ones like Kickstarter or GoFundMe. When ABLE programs are first getting started, we built those features right into the ABLE account. So for example, someone could put on there for themselves, I'm graduating from high school. Would you like to contribute for my future and contribute to my ABLE account so I can have funds to go after high school? People can contribute right into the ABLE account. If they're in that state, if you remember, there could be a tax benefit to do so. Giving money to Kickstarter and GoFundMe, there is no tax benefit, but giving directly into the ABLE account, there could be a tax benefit. So keep that in mind. Also for this year, and a good feature we have is the fact that if someone has a college savings plan, a 529 college savings plan, you can actually roll over the funds from the 529 college savings account and roll it over into the ABLE account. So those forms, again, are on the ABLE program websites. The programs do it. And in fact, it's very helpful because once you take the money out from the 529 plan and put it into the ABLE program, it actually expands what you can spend the money on, which we're going to get into in a little bit. Okay, this slide's always fun because there's lots of numbers, very, very easily. The left-hand number is $19,000. That's this year, calendar year 2025, the maximum amount of money that can go into an ABLE account where anybody can put it in. The person with disabilities themselves, their family, their friends, their neighbors, whoever, any amount of money can go in there. The second part, the middle number is the 34,000, is essentially an added extra amount of money that a person with a disability can put in, but that money has to come from their wage amounts. So for example, if someone's working and they're earning funds, not only can they put $19,000 in, but they can also put an additional amount of money in, up to $34,000. And then the section on the right-hand side is the balance limits. Essentially, the different states have different balance limits. So some are 300,000 and some are 500,000. Again, that's how much money could be in there over the balance over the lifetime of the account. So it does vary state by state. I'm going to stop there for 1 second and just say that let me grab this really quick here. This one is definitely an easy one for me to grab because I have it right here. I want to provide everyone with the link to our the slides, so you don't have to actually take notes if you don't want to. But this is we have a cited version, which I'm going through right now. I'm providing you the presentation. We also have a screen reader friendly visual outline one as well, which is just an outline form of all the material here. If you go to that link, it'll take you to both places. Okay, another example here. This is about putting money in. So Dalton is age majority. He's over the age of 18 or 19. He has a job. He's working on a regular basis. He's putting monies in from his wages into his ABLE account. He also does e-gifting features from time to time and receives some money. This slide is fantastic. And there's a lot of good things going on here. The entire best part of the slide actually is the very bottom of the slide. And maybe I should just have this be the bottom of the slide, should be the whole slide. But essentially for him, for Dalton, before he had an ABLE account, he could only have $2,000, and that's all he could have while remaining eligible for his benefits. And now with an ABLE account, he can save well over $2,000 every month and every single year going forward. So the really powerful point of this slide is the fact that he has the choice and he has the opportunity and ability for himself and for his family to finally earn and have more than $2,000 and save it in an ABLE account while remaining eligible for his benefits. Okay, this one is pretty crystal clear and easy. We do it on purpose. Some programs have fees. There are monthly maintenance fees on being able to have it. Some are zero, goes up to $60. A lot of it depends on the fact that some programs have different things, which we're going to get into here in a little bit, but some may have checking accounts. Some may have special benefits and reduction in prices. Some may have checks, all those kind of things. So the different programs will have different features. When I first got started, the average account monthly fee was about $5 a month, and it's gone down across the board for a lot of programs because of how many people are in the programs. And then on the asset-based fees size, that's on the investments. It's kind of like the way I describe it is most of us are planning for our futures. We're planning to have a retirement one day. We have a retirement account and maybe our funds are going there and that's being managed. So tiny little pieces of that are being managed. There are some fees, again, very, very small nominal fees. Okay, so this is on the account themselves. Essentially, they're in a couple different parts. So it's a checking savings style, and then there's the investment style. So you can pick. Person with a disability can pick, the family member, whoever else is managing the account. So essentially, there's the checking savings option, which is FDIC insured. It's like a standard checking and savings feature like any other banks. Not going to earn a lot of interest, but the money's always going to be there, and there's not the risk of being able to invest it. If someone wanted to choose, though, to be able to put it in the investment feature, they can. So ABLE programs themselves across the entire country have different levels of investments, right? There's the low risk, lower reward, and the higher risk. There's the short-term options and long-term options. It's all different variables with stocks and bonds. Every single ABLE program themselves have all of their investment portfolios and all of their investment performances on their website. So if you want to check that out yourself before you pick, you can. But again, there's always the checking and savings option that many people pick themselves. Always a fun slide. Now that I have the opportunity to save money, now that I have the opportunity to save money for my child, I want to spend it, which is probably what the biggest reason of having an ABLE account is. For people with disabilities, the expenses of their lives are more increased in many situations for people who don't. So having an ABLE account is not just saving it and holding on to it for years and years. It's being able to have money and be able to spend it while remaining eligible. That's why that one slide earlier in the presentation was it's a savings and spending tool, not a savings and never spend it tool, right? So the categories that we talk about often, which is in across the regulations, is housing and rent, assistive technology, financial management, legal fees, transportation. We can dive into a couple of these here. So for example, housing is being able to put equipment to be able to get in and out of the house, right? Adaptive equipment while in the house. Possibly it's an upgrade to the bathrooms, right? Or kitchens. Maybe it's a certain kind of couch or certain things like that. Medical expenses could be everything from co-pays to surgeries, to physical therapies. Assistive technology could be a computer to be able to read, maybe go to school, maybe go to work, maybe do your job, right? So it's very expansive. Also the apps, that too. Cell phones, transportation. Transportation could be a vehicle. It could be the gas for the vehicle. It could be upgrades. It could be technology and adaptive things to be able to drive a vehicle, get in and out of a vehicle. So the list goes on and on. My personal favorite is slice of pizza. And a slice of pizza is, you could say it's a basic living expense because it's a food. And depending on where you are, maybe you really love pizza. But a slice of pizza is also giving someone the opportunity to go out in the community, to have peer-to-peer engagement, spend time with friends, spend time with their loved ones, and being able to be somewhere and be able to use their own money to do so. And that's what I think an ABLE account and the spirit behind an ABLE account really is giving people with disabilities a chance to have their own money with their own name on it and doing the things that are helping them. The way the regulations basically state, which is the black section on top here, is anything that relates to the disability and helps them improve health, independence, or quality of life. If someone wanted to start a business, that's a plan to be able to promote themselves for financial independence, right? Being able to use funds to be able to start a business. Again, it's what's going to help them live a different, better life. And that's what the spirit behind what an ABLE account is, being able to save money, staying on benefits, and then using it to help for paying for disability-related benefits and also just improving their life. I should just put a slice of pizza on here. It might be easier, right, Ashley or Andy? I mean, it might be just, and I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I'm partial to Buddy's Pizza. I might, maybe I'll do that. Okay, so I mentioned earlier the different programs. Different states are going to have different things. Please do check this out as you're researching not only your own state's program, but another one. Some have checkbooks, others don't. Some have an ATM debit card that someone could use to go get money and spend the money. Some don't. Some have a loadable spend card, which means that you can actually take the card and you can identify businesses and places that the funds can be spent on, right? So like an ATM, for example, or a debit card, for example, you can just go get all the money in your savings or checking account from your debit card. Some have actually loadable spend cards where you have to put money onto it and only the amount of money put on the card is eligible. I'm saying this because different programs will have different kind of technology features. Think about what's best for your choice and what you'd like to do and who you're helping to support, and be able to pick and choose. At the end of the day, many of the programs also have bill pay features, so you can actually pay a cell phone bill right from there. You can pay rent right from there. If that doesn't suit you, you can also take the money out of your Able account once it's in there, and you can put it into your personal checking and personal savings and spend it out of there. So lots of different features, but again, do look and research how you would like to have the different features and what you'd like out of your Able program. Okay, this is for SSI and Medicaid. We always make sure we explain this. For SSI and the Social Security Administration, if someone were ever to get to $100,000 in an ABLE account, monies in the ABLE account after $100,000 would be counted, and they could suspend the ABLE account again after you get to $100,000 cash in an ABLE account, which again sounds bad, but $100,000 cash is a pretty good deal compared to $2,000. So I don't argue this ever, and I think it's probably justified. For housing for SSI, someone has to take the money out of the ABLE account and spend it on housing or their rent in the same calendar month. If it crosses over calendar months, it could be counted as a resource and not protected in an ABLE account. So for example, today is June 25th. If I was going to pay my July 1st mortgage, I'd either take the money out this month and pay the mortgage this month, or I would take it out on July 1st and pay the rent on July 1st. So it has to be taken out and spent in the same calendar month. And then for Medicaid, no limit. But if anybody is receiving Medicaid, ABLE accounts as of right now are not prohibitive across the entire country on if Medicaid wants to do a payback, look back, whatever word that you'd like to use for this. So for example, in some states, if the state Medicaid office wants to recoup some of the funds back that someone may have to pay back Medicaid services, they could do so. This is not an ABLE rule. This is just a Medicaid rule for the states. Now, almost 20 ABLE programs have worked with their state general assemblies, and almost 20 states actually have state laws prohibiting their Medicaid offices from doing so. A couple of them off the top of my head would be Virginia and California, and Maryland too. It's on our website, but at the end of the day, there's almost half of the states have this prohibitive nature of people not having the opportunity for Medicaid to do that. Again, please do look at these kind of things as you're researching and reviewing the different ABLE programs. Okay, if anybody here has heard of a special needs trust, fantastic. I think ABLE accounts are the next evolution of a special needs trust. In fact, last year we spent time and resources. We actually made an ABLE continuing legal education course in partnership explaining how an ABLE account works with a special needs trust. This year, I am partnering with special needs advisors, and we're going to make a ABLE continuing education course for how ABLE accounts should be and could be part of special needs planning. And so we're going to release that in January of next year. But essentially, ABLE accounts are not a replacement for a special needs trust. And a special needs trust is not a replacement for an ABLE account. They should be considered in tandem. A couple of good examples on this. ABLE accounts, again, we mentioned earlier, have a $19,000 a year maximum amount of contribution. Special needs trusts do not. ABLE accounts are very easy to use. If you have a debit card or a checking account, you can use the funds very easily. Special needs trusts, there are some administrative steps to take and be able to spend the money. I think overall, a really great example of how they work together is you can put money into an ABLE account, save the money into the ABLE account, and be able to then work with the legal firm to be able to get a special needs trust, work with a special needs advisor to be able to get a special needs trust and be able to get different tools. Again, using the ABLE account to be able to buy things. For example, if someone with disabilities only had less than $2,000 their whole life, maybe they don't even have a will or an afterlife plan, right? You can use your ABLE account to be able to work with someone and make sure they have a will, make sure they have an afterlife plan. So that's just an important step. And again, a qualified disability expense from what an ABLE account can do. Okay, this is the part. If you would like more information, we have a great website. I think we have loads of information on there. Please do tell people what an ABLE account is. I've been doing this a long time. I'm always amazed, and I'm actually pretty happy when people have never heard about it, because it shows that we have a lot more outreach to do. For the different states, if you are in a state like Randy, for example, I'm going up to Traverse City, Michigan to visit my mom and my dad next week for 4th of July. And so webinars are great, right? We can do this very easily. So if there's different chapters that want information, or if you'd like to have a group get more information from a certain state, I'll connect you with the state program where you live to be able to do a presentation on that. So just let me know. You can email me or Ashley or anybody. You can send my email over, or our basic one is just info@abletoday.org. So, okay, this one's very important. There's a couple of good things. I put in the chat the link to our website, which is the cited version of the presentation I'm doing today, and also the screen reader friendly outline. On here are other links, which include a recording for ASL. We have a webinar we did with the Social Security Administration. We have a podcast and videos. So we try to do conversations with folks to be able to talk about how able accounts are helping their lives, some examples of what able accounts are doing. I mentioned earlier that ABLE regulations exist from the Social Security Administration, from CMS, from HUD, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So it's all on our website at abletoday.org/regulations. And then for people who are working, we actually have a link about how ABLE accounts can help employers, both people that are looking for work and have a job that have a disability, but also family members that are working somewhere that are supporting a loved one at home. So just a couple of different resources for you. Again, it's on their website. It's on our different presentation examples. So please use all that. Okay, and that's it. I'm going to stop there. There's one question here. It says, under what terms can Medicaid require payback? So Sue, thank you for your question. This is always good. Why is it good? These are really good questions because I want to be able to help you. I don't work for the Medicaid office, so I can't give you all the different stipulations. A couple of them I do know off the top of my head, for example, is if someone's receiving Medicaid services over the age of 55, there could be a Medicaid requirement for looking at services. If someone is permanently housed, I believe is another example that they could have that when they get 24-hour treatments and be able to be at a hospital or facility where they're getting around-the-clock care. Again, I don't know all those examples because I don't work for the Medicaid office. So I can only help you with an enable part. So I do apologize for that. But if I can try to find a place to get you information, I'll send it to Ashley or Randy, and hopefully that's going to help. I do get that. I get Social Security questions a lot. I get questions on Medicaid. I get questions on HUD. I get which investment options should we pick for the ABLE accounts. I do play a lawyer when I do these webinars, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm just an outreach person who believes in what an ABLE account is. Yeah. Sue, thank you. Okay, this is from Kimberly. When in 2026 can we apply? And if diagnosed after 46, what would I need? So, for example, on January 1st, the age will change, and the ABLE programs, we all just met together earlier this month for a national get-together. We're all intending that as of January 1st, 2026, for a person with a disability who wants to enroll in an ABLE account, if they're eligible for it up to age 46, they can do so on January 1st, 2026. So our intention and our plan as right now is that from day one, people can do so. So please do stand by for that. We have a national newsletter we send out. In fact, we just put in Scleroderma Awareness Month information on there because we wanted our community to know about it. So if you want to join our newsletter, we'll be sure to make sure you know. But at the end of the day, our plan right now is January 1st, 2026, we'll be ready to go. And then if diagnosed after 46. So Kim, one quick thing. If someone were to be diagnosed with something after the age of 46, they could still be eligible for an ABLE account. Because if a physician has said that their disability was with them since birth or with them since they're in their 20s or 30s, they can still be eligible for an ABLE account. You can be eligible for an ABLE account if you're diagnosed right now, for example, at the age of 30, but you had something you didn't know about for years and years. So it's really just when a doctor has diagnosed someone with a disability, as long as it will be before the age of 46. If it happens to be that they're diagnosed after 46, with a disability that started after 46, they would not be eligible for an ABLE account. And that's just the way the regulations are for right now. Glimmer of hope. For all these years I've been doing this, in 2020, when did I start doing this? 2015 now. The age has been 26, and now nearly 10 years later, it's increased to 46. So possibly the next evolution of this would be to raise the age or have no age at all. So do stand by. It may not be the next couple days, but that could be in the works, right? Okay. So, and then Randy and Ashley, is this okay? I'm just reading the questions and answering them. Is
Yes,
that okay for you both?
absolutely.
Okay.
As long as that works for
Okay.
you,
Yes.
Eric.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Is there any state tax reciprocity for ABLE accounts? Can Delaware resident get benefits for distributing? Oh, this is a great one. Okay. Really good. This is great questions. Thank you. Wow. So a really, really good example. And this is what it will be. So for example, let's say someone lives in Delaware and they want to have the ABLE program in Maryland, which I think is what the question is asking. If they have an ABLE program in another state, but the Delaware program prohibits the Medicaid look back, it only would work if they have that state's ABLE program. So for example, California has the prohibition on Medicaid look back and Medicaid not taking the funds, but you have to have the in-state California account to do so. You couldn't have Nevadas or Oregons to do so. On top of that, most of the states don't have the tax benefits if you have another ABLE account. You'd have to have the in-state program, which is why I relied so heavily on saying, please do take a look at your in-state program because they might have benefits like these two things before you pick another program. So really, that's a really, really good question. Thanks for asking. Yeah. Yeah, and it's actually kind of interesting because some 529 accounts do this. For ABLE accounts, most of them are all written, for example, that you have to have the in-state program to do so. And that's the way the states have done it. Sue is saying, for example, 35 years old. Should I wait? So Sue, if you have been diagnosed at 35, but your disability or your condition was diagnosed to have started earlier than 26, you could sign up today. If they're saying that the disability's onset was 35 and that's when the disability actually started, yes, you'd have to wait until January 1st, 2026 to do so. Yes. And maybe for Randy and Ashley, while we do this, Ashley, I'll go grab that SSA link for everybody, and I'll go put it in the chat. That way everybody has. I saved it here on my nifty notepad.
Well, and Erica, Sue had a kind of a follow-up question is what do you mean that scleroderma is a qualified disability?
Yes, so it's a very good question. And this is the kind of conversations we have. ABLE programs are not going to sit here and ask you what condition you have. The way the federal regulations work are they're going to ask, are you eligible for an SSI, SSDI? Do you have a condition that's of disability onset in it's mental or respiratory, those kind of things. We point, and I have been doing this for years, we point to the Social Security Administration, SSA. They have a thing called the Blue Book. And the Blue Book is essentially SSA's listing of hundreds, if not thousands, of different conditions that are physical, that are visual, that are respiratory, that are nervous, that are skin conditions, that essentially the Social Security is saying, this is what we describe as having a disability. We point people there because there's no possible way that I myself could 100% know every single condition out there and all the different specifics for it. So the easiest thing we do is, and I'm going to copy this in here right now, and then I'm going to put it in here, is we had actually researched this for this webinar. And in these two sections right here, it's listed in both the SSA Blue Book for adults and the SSA Blue Book for children. So you do not have to copy these things. You don't have to save this. Don't print this out. You don't have to. This was just me doing my own cursory research to make sure all of you know that this condition is ABLE eligible. It's listed in the SSA Blue Book. Also, on top of that, again, if there's a diagnosis from a physician that basically says that someone has this condition, they're going to be eligible. So this was just an added research helpful tip for the group in case anybody was wondering. Early on, for example, many groups were saying, well, how do I know if I'm eligible for an ABLE account? We just use this tool, this resource from the Social Security Administration to be able to point to. That's really what it is. If, for example, an easy one would be in here, there's actually a listing from the Social Security on what they define as someone having hearing loss or blindness. I don't remember those numbers exactly, but they're in here in the blue book. And so when someone says, well, am I eligible? I am blind. We point them to here. And then the Social Security Administration has these little pieces in this blue book to be able to say, here's what we determine that someone has a disability.
Do you see Kimberly's question?
Yes. So Kimberly, so some programs do have forms that if you want to take in and give to the doctor, that's helpful. If a doctor has a diagnosis, a script that they have, great. A majority of the programs, though, are never going to ask you to submit that form. You are, though, required to have that form on you in case you are audited, in case you were asked for it, to be able to provide it. So again, for example, in Ohio, you would self-attest when you're actually applying for an ABLE account and saying, yes, I meet the requirements. I have a disability. I have a diagnosis form. You would check those boxes. We would never have asked you, though, to submit the form because we'd be receiving forms nonstop. And actually some programs they were getting forms, they were reviewing them. It's all been stopped. Essentially, the way the majority of it works is we just ask that you have it on hand in case you are asked either by us or possibly the IRS if they do an audit. You have that form on you and you can provide it as needed. But no, a majority of these programs are never going to ask you for it because you are hopefully going to self-attest that, yes, you're eligible. Yes, I have a condition. And yes, you have the paper form on you. That's it.
Great. Anybody else have additional questions? Well, Eric, this has been great. It's really obviously very applicable information for our community, and I'm really glad that you're going to be at conference to continue the education about this great resource, and we look forward to working together with you